Okay, so this is a question from investigation 7. However, it is assuming that you know some things that I think you probably do not know, which is why I have this bell curve here. Some of you have seen a bell curve, some of you have not. Let me remind you or tell you, if you don't know it, that a bell curve, the mean, 2.5 is represented by this middle right here, okay? So this 2.5 is right here, okay? Now, it says there's a standard deviation of 1.36. So that means that every time you get to the next line, here, 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 it jumps 1.36. So 2.5 up is 2.5 plus, so it's like this goes plus 1.36, plus 1.36, plus 1.36 in this category. And basically, this is this bell curve here represents how the data would be spread out. Most of the data would be considered here in one of these two sections, and then more of the data would be in these 1, 2, 3, 4 sections, and then of course there's very little of the data that's out here and out here. Okay, so let's see what we would have. What number would be right here? So if you add 2.5 plus 1.36, you should get 3.86, I believe. So right here would be 3.86. Does that make sense? And then we could add 3.86 plus 1.36 to find out what this value is here, okay? And then here, if we would take 2.5 minus 1.36, that would equal, let me look here, 2.5 minus 1.36 equals 1.14, okay? So down here would represent, so essentially what we're saying here is that all the students who, the idea of the breakfast eating students, I guess we could talk about it in those terms, there are between 1.14 and 3.86 students. Most of those are the numbers of days that most students will be eating breakfast, okay? So, to the question now. If Stephanie eats breakfast 5 days per week, how many standard deviations above the mean is she? Well, let's just add 3.86 plus 1.36. Okay, so there's 5.22. Do you see that here is 5.22? So Stephanie is about right in here somewhere. You see that? 5.22, because this is where 5.20. So she's not quite 2 standard deviations above the mean. Okay, this represents the mean. Okay, but how can we find out exactly how many standard deviations above the mean she is? Well, it's just some math actually. And if you'll let me show you those steps, I think you'll find that they aren't actually as confusing as it looks initially. All right, so she eats breakfast 5 days per week. So 5 minus how far away she is from the mean, which is 2.5, right? Okay, divided by each of these sections is 1.36 units long, because that's the standard deviation. Okay, so 1.36. So if you do the math on that, you'll discover that it's 1.84 standard deviations above, which is what we expected, because do you see that I said we knew that she wasn't quite 2 full standard deviations away from the mean. And so 1.84 makes perfect sense. So let's take a look at B. Daryl is eating breakfast 1 day per week. Okay, so where is Daryl? Well, Daryl is going to be down here below this somewhere, right? Daryl's going to be in here somewhere because he is, a little bit further away than this is 1.14. He's only eating breakfast 1 day a week, so he's going to be down here somewhere. So how far is Daryl away from the mean? Well, 2.5 is kind of what we're comparing it to. So 2.5 minus 1, okay? I think that's right, over 1.36. Let's see what we get here. Well, we take 2.5 minus 1, okay, and then that's 1.5, divided by 1.36 gives us 1.10. So how far is Daryl away from the mean? A little bit more than 1. You see how Daryl's right here? So he's 1 full standard deviation plus a little bit more, all right? So who is closest to the mean. Is Daryl closer or is Stephanie closer? Well, you can see just by looking at it that Daryl is closer, but we also have the proof for it. So who is closest to the sample mean? Daryl is the closest, okay? Lots of, this is a good introduction to the bell curve and kind of get you familiar with it. We'll talk more about that in the future.